Hi, guys, and welcome. This is Jen Gata Siciliano, artist, memoir writer, bipolar psychiatric survivor, and your host of Not As Crazy As You Think podcast, the place that offers an alternative perspective on mental illness, highlighting creativity, non-conventional healing, and breaking on through to the other side. If you are ready for a new narrative on the mental realm that celebrates crazy and cool without penalty, then Not As Crazy As You Think is for you. Hello, this is Jen Gata Siciliano, your host of Not As Crazy As You Think podcast. Today's guest is an extraordinary human being. Her name is Mary Clista Dahl. She is an author who has been playing with words since she was 3. She's a person with lived experience of psychosis and is well known in the national and international mental health communities for promoting hopeful recovery solutions for what is clinically described as serious mental illness, encouraging others to understand their labels as attributes over pathologies. She enjoys speaking, writing, and introducing others to compassionate care options. And she's also passionate about holistic health, interested in integrative healing practices, and is a certified aromatherapist and Reiki master. She earned her master's degree in integrative health and healing and recognizes the role that nature plays in our well-being. We met at the International Association for Psychological and Social Approaches to Psychosis conference, this ISPS conference in 2023 at the University of Delaware. And I've been wanting to interview you since. Mary, thank you for joining the show and for sharing this space with me. I know that we approach the interest in changing the paradigm of the way we treat mental illness in many ways the same way. So thank you for joining the show.
It is my pleasure and privilege. I'm so excited to be here. Thanks, Jen.
Well, let's start first with your own personal experience, because that's always how a lot of people make those connections. Tell us about how you first got labeled, what that label was, and where that trajectory set your path onto the mental health system.
Okay. So in 1998, I had a full-blown psychotic episode as defined by the mental health system. When I arrived at work at the university where I worked. So I had that episode and I was irrational, out of it. I was, quote, out of my mind. And I was taken away. The policy was back then, I was taken away. I was put in handcuffs, first of all, and taken away in an elevator, a back elevator to a loading dock, and put into an ambulance and taken away to a local mental hospital where I spent 9 days. I was immediately given a shot of something when I was in the ambulance. I don't know what that was, but I that was my first experience personally in the mental health system.
Mm-hmm.
So from that point forward, I was the compliant patient with the insurance and the drugs and the visits to the psychiatrist and the counselors. And at that time, it was dictated by my insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fully compliant because I was afraid. I had 2 small children at home. My psychiatrist labeled me with bipolar disorder. And that was at a time when it had just been changed from manic depressive.
Right.
So they didn't have the types yet, type 1, type 2, or the stages, or so it's just bipolar disorder. And so I followed the system for 18 years and on medication, and I didn't have any more episodes until I was going through a very traumatic time in my life in 2016. And then I had a similar episode, and I just, at that time, I just knew if I were to stay at home with my journal, I would be okay. So I wanted people to leave me alone, but my family was terrified
Mm-hmm.
And so they talked me into going back to the hospital where I spent another 9 days. And it was after that experience when I came home that I said, that it was a completely different experience in my thought process.
Mm.
While I was in the hospital, I heard a voice that said, bipolar disorder, it's just a term. It's not who you are. And that was an inner voice that I believed, and I did not tell. I knew not to tell anybody I was hearing it. So I was released again 9 days later. And that was all my insurance would allow at the time. So I now know that that's why they gave me 9 days. And I came home and I had 5 weeks to recover from work. And I spent it questioning the system, questioning my experience there. They put me on the wrong meds. They called an old emergency contact, and the meds they put me on were based on my old chart.
Mm.
And they called my old emergency contact, who was a former boyfriend,
Oh.
even though my brother was in the waiting room. And so it was one big communication mess. And after I talked to my daughter about it, and she was 24 at the time, and she said to me, you know what, Mom, it was weird. They said to me, you can't see your mother because she's not herself.
Mm.
And I said, or she told me that she said, I don't know how you can know my mother better than I do.
Right.
So she was questioning it. So it was from that point on that I kind of I started researching the mental health system, the history of mental health and how it came to be, the DSM,
Mm.
and after I learned what I learned, I called it a spiritual awakening instead of being disordered. I dropped my label and I've been speaking and writing on it ever since.
You know, just when you say that they pull things from the past and they treat you in the present, right? It's like it's the narrative of this. You have this illness inside your body, inside your biology, and it's going to last forever no matter what happens, no matter how successful you become. You know, one of the things I read on one of the things that you wrote was this idea that if I'm doing well in my life, you know, I successfully raised children, doing well in my career, you know, and then I have a trauma. This idea of serious mental illness, you're not ongoing mentally ill constantly. This is like, these are experiences that you have that are part of the human condition. So letting go of the label is really letting go of the entire story around mental illness and what that paradigm says. One of the things I noticed that you said is that, you know, you were like, I'm not the least bit disordered in reality. As a matter of fact, I'm perfectly well, because you see mental illness or the manifestation of mental illness as this like natural defense mechanism to kind of help you reestablish your balance in life. So can you like explain that view a little bit, and have you come across many people who are now also sharing this point of view?
Absolutely. I will say, through my research and learning about the DSM and how it came about, and with professionals opinions, and then I looked up the word disordered on Google,
Mm.
and I looked at the definition, and it was like disarranged and chaotic, and I was like, how do we ever
Mm.
get away with calling each other that? And what's the point? How do we help each other with considering each other disorder? It's easy to call somebody that and walk away, but to really be compassionate and help each other, we have to stop using that narrative. I don't remember what else. Oh, if I've met people, other people.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely. At conferences, and I call them now my mad family. And most of us have been through the same experience, being labeled and reconsidering our labels as something else, something spiritual, something.
Right.
And the more we find each other and connect and talk and support, it's like from the grassroots up.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a movement for the better. And I'll share something that happened to me a couple of weeks ago that
Please.
I cheerlead. I'm so excited. I went to a new primary and he was really, really listening to me,
Wow.
and which was amazing. He said, "Tell me your story." And I did. And I told him about my bipolar diagnosis. And I also told him about how I dropped the label.
Okay.
And we talked and talked. And 27 years ago, it was when I was told, you will always be on medication.
Mm-hmm.
You will get progressively worse. And so I had that conversation with this doctor, and I said, I'm not, I'm not worse. I have considered myself cured. And he documented in my medical chart, it says bipolar disorder, full remission.
Oh my God, that is rare that any
And
doctor will do that. I don't know if anybody understands that. That's amazing.
yeah, I thought, and I thought how far we have come. So I think that's a testimony to what's happening in society now. I think people that have been labeled are questioning it. There's still a lot of people that are labeling themselves off of the internet without going to
Yeah.
doctors.
Yeah.
But I think those of us who were given a label and in the system are starting to question that, which is beautiful.
It is a beautiful thing. It's a tricky situation because a lot of people find like some kind of comfort with a label. Oh, now I know what it is. I don't know if everybody understands what the DSM is. All the labels are descriptions. They're not like any kind of like scientific thing that they've discovered and biomarkers, and it's nothing like that. So all they're really describing is your personality.
Yes.
And then, by considering your own personality as a disorder, it's like you're rejecting yourself. And then kind of try. And I tried for so many years to be the person that they wanted me to be. And then when I realized like there was no getting around it, I couldn't be who they wanted me to be, no matter how hard I tried. And they were still persecuting me because of it. This has been going on for ages, right? Over the ages, the idea of madness has always been a thing. And I know that you were, and it could still be pursuing a wisdom studies degree.
Yes.
Okay, so like I'm sure in wisdom studies you're learning a lot about indigenous interpretations of how they see these things. What have you come across in on that end?
Most of it that I'm seeing is the shamanism, the
Mm,
nature connection,
yeah.
and purposely invoking that condition of what the system calls psychosis through vision quests.
Mm,
And when people have those visions, the shaman of the tribe will take that person aside and navigate them through the spiritual experience and bring them back and coach them basically on how to move from that elevated spirit to grounding again
yes.
and to encourage other people to do the same. And
Yes.
it's also, I compare it to, it's been described as traveling through different dimensions
Mm-hmm.
and coming back. And
Mm-hmm.
throughout the different cultures of the world, there are sane ways to, if you want to call it that, that's what I call it, sane ways to describe these experiences that
Mhm.
are beautiful and natural and very, very human.
Yes, absolutely. You know, you've gone through this experience as what they called psychosis, right? It's like and I have too. We share that past and late getting labeled with bipolar disorder. When you started to like question the system and starting making room for this other interpretation, it was more of this spiritual emergence and this visionary aspect, right? I feel like a lot of people who experience these things, we have gifts that need to kind of be developed and honed rather than suppressed and told to be seen as disorderly. After going through a lot of experiences with pulling out of that narrative, you are now holding a sacred space for people who to come to your sanctuary called 12 Angels in Ohio, this program where you make space for people to kind of do healing work. Can you explain like what that experience is like, what you've learned from it, and what programs you offer?
It's been a very gradual journey from when I was released from that hospital. When I first started doing my research and I would mention it to people, they would be uncomfortable with it and quickly change the subject.
Really?
So I was really quiet. I would go to webinars and leave my camera off. I was very quiet and hush hush about it and didn't speak at all about it. But the more I learned and the more I learned who I could share this with, the more open I became about it. So, um, a few years ago, I discovered this very small village in Ohio called Yellow Springs, and they are very open-minded and holistic community. So I moved here last June. I wanted to set up the sanctuary in the town I was in Western New York, but they were very, very big and very, very attached to the traditional mental health system.
Yeah.
Um, so when I came here and I told people what I wanted to do, I had people coming to my apartment. So um, I'm setting up creative expression gatherings, but most of the work I do now, I don't charge. And that's because the people I'm working with can't really afford it, and I
Yeah.
don't want to go through insurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not confidential, and there's all those stipulations.
Yeah.
So I just go, I do what I call listening sessions where people just come over. We do one on one, and I tell them, just talk to me. And we talk a lot about creative expression
Wow.
because creative expression to me was stifled a lot in my working years.
Hmm.
And once I brought that back out and started writing again, producing my books, um, that became a real healing thing for me. And so I encourage the people that come to me, what is your creative thing that you've always done or you forgot to do? And they would tell me, a lot of them tell me about things they did as children and they stopped. And so I encourage them, do it again, just try
Yes.
again. And they bring out either drawing or music or some sort of creative expression. And the results have been astounding, you know, because you can see it in their eyes.
Yeah.
Where they say they just kind of open up and go, "Oh yeah, I remember when I used to do this. I should try that again." And then
Hmm.
they do, and I welcome them to bring me whatever they create, and I hang that in what I call my gallery in my apartment. So right now, I am working out of my apartment through word of mouth. People are just quickly finding out about me, talking about me. And I don't say that from an ego perspective,
Right.
but I finding that the offline world works better for me
Yeah.
as far as promotion goes, um, and reputation. And it's just a beautiful feeling. So the crazy thing that I was talking about, which demonstrated my graduation from perceived crazy person to visionary,
Okay.
there's a property nearby my house that's got 16 acres. And on it is a house that was built in 1812. It's been for sale since I moved here in June. And so I looked into it, and it's got outbuildings where I could do creative expression workshops. It's got farmland where I could do like sustainable farmland for ecotherapy. It
Wow.
has everything that I wanted to help people with in one place. And it was listed at $1 million. So I contacted the realtor and I said, I don't have the money, but I would like to go through it. And she took me through, and I fell in love with it. I'm like, this is perfect. So I put a contingent offer on it, and I just got word this morning that the seller accepted the offer for 6 months. I have 6 months to come up with that money. And I believe if you would have told me that when I was first diagnosed, or if I would have kept myself into that helpless, only going to get worse mode,
Right.
I never would have done this. And my realtor's like, I believe in you. You just want to help people. And do you
Wow.
know how many people you will help
Oh
if
my
this
gosh.
comes through? So it's like, it feels really, really good and liberated
Wow.
to have this opportunity and to meet people like you,
Mm.
and just to inspire people that, like me, at one point were devastated and hopeless. To bring that hope to people is, I don't have the words to describe it.
I wish you the best of luck with this endeavor because this is incredible. It always starts with the vision, right? The idea and then the follow through, which you're taking now. And it sounds to me delightful. Like, it's so funny. I've been in on the inside 7 times, okay, in different capacities inside hospitals. Because of the label, they keep me 10 days to 2 weeks each time. No questions asked. It doesn't matter if the next day I'm totally fine. So a place like this, I would have loved to plant my feet on because what you're doing is providing a real like space for people to heal. And what I think both of us have learned is that how the mental health industry is set up right now, it's not about healing. It's about suppressing whatever wild stuff is going on in our heads, with our voices or whatever, and just getting us like kind of I don't know, like kind of robotic because that's what a lot of these medications do. I mean, especially those who are dealing with SMIs, which is serious mental illness labels, right? Bipolar, schizophrenia, that kind of stuff. We are put on very heavy antipsychotics to suppress those expressions. And they're so connected to spiritual experiences. And I really, like I said, I wish you the best of luck because that seems to me to be like this in the environment where like healing and expression can truly take place and you can really like go for it. I hope everything works out with that. I mean, that's wonderful.
Thank you, thank you. And your wording, you kept using the word suppression,
Mm,
and that is such an important word. And at one point, I realized suppression or depression is merely suppressed happiness. When
yeah.
we suppress our happiness, I feel like it is depression. It's buried deep down there, and it's
Mm,
not a matter of medicating it. It's a matter
right.
of finding out and talking, finding out in your own mind what your happiness is, and then finding out what it takes to release that and bring that back. And
Absolutely.
and so there is so much healing to be had there.
And the creativity is so important too. As an art teacher, I see that there is such a nobleness in creative expression that if we automatically incorporated that across the treatment plans, those are true coping skills, because then they go into a state, they could resort to trying to get it out in some way, express themselves in some way, and perhaps, work through those voices or whatever. I'm speaking about the voices and I want to bring it up. You have also had voices, and you have come to terms with those voices and started seeing those voices as guiding posts or angels. Can you explain that interpretation a little bit? Because I really connect to that, and I think a lot of the audience will as well.
Yes, yes. And I'm blessed that I never had threatening or nasty voices. And I didn't have a lot of childhood trauma that I can identify. So I'm blessed in that. But I do have a lot of voices. And
Mm-hmm.
the more I admit that, the more I hear from so-called normal people that they hear voices as well, but nobody wants to admit it.
Wow.
So I have learned to. I used to ignore my voices or suppress them,
Mm-hmm.
and but I have learned to listen to them, and the more I listen and trust them, the more guiding they become. So I started calling them my angel voices,
Mm.
and they often will wake me up in the middle of the night and start saying things over and over. And sometimes they laugh, and I'll be like begging for mercy to go back to sleep, and they won't let me because they'll be giving me these visionary ideas until I get up and write them down in a notebook, and then they'll let me go back to sleep. But they're
Mm.
definitely there. I remember hearing one when I was in the healing process when I went back to work. And I saw a person in the hallway at the university, and I hadn't seen her in a long time. And she's like, "Oh, Mary, how are you?" And I'm like, um, she said, "What's new?" And I heard a voice inside my head say, "You are." And I said, "Oh, a lot of things are new. I'm doing well." And I had this conversation with her the whole time, concentrating on this voice saying, "Oh my God." So I feel like for me anyway, the voices get friendlier. And I've had this conversation with people who have been through the same thing that say, yes, the more you trust them and are not afraid to listen to what they have to say, the friendlier they get and the more
Mm-hmm.
helpful they get.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's been my experience.
Yeah, that's beautiful. See, I had a near death experience when I was 22. So when I had come out of that, I was like in the air coming from India when I was very sick over there and had this near death experience. And then when I came out of that, it's like the voices that kind of like got me home on that airplane, that emergency flight home, were still with me, and they still are with me. So I saw them truly as angels, and I always like, it's interesting because a lot of people call themselves religious, but they also believe that there's intercessors between them and the other side, whether it be a priest or, whatever. So my mother was very religious, and she just thought I was lying or something. Because I was saying the angels got me home. And so that made me realize, like, this is not something that everyone feels that comfortable with. And I believe that is the case because not enough people are talking about it. So the fact that, you have found that more people are willing to come out of the shadows and talk about their experiences when you have had the courage to share yours, that's a really beautiful thing because we need more people like you.
Thank you.
It's so true because, I mean, we both now are in like this circle where we're starting to see a alternative vision or view of these states come forward. It's taking some time. But I think, as time continues, we've had a lot of people inside the system call out the problems with the biomedical model, for instance. A lot of people are saying, these are not chemical imbalances, and they have wonderful studies now that are showing that. Um, in your experience, you've come across now many, medical doctors who are trying to be open and change their tune. How far away do you think we are from landing on a really truly new version of what the majority of people understand as mental illness?
I only pay attention to my circle, but I don't think we're really that far.
Mm,
And not only because people like you and me are sharing our experiences, and NDE stories seem to be exploding
yeah,
the more people come forward.
yeah,
And I really appreciate that because um, it's there's that brings more people out to share their story. And it's really funny when you were talking about the angels. I'll share this really fast. I was talking to my daughter one day about my angels, and she looked at me and she said, "I don't want to hear your crazy talk." And then it was about 2 weeks later, she had a really high fever. And she texted me. She said, "I cannot talk about this right now, so I will text you." During her fever, she heard a voice and that said, "I am an angel." And the angel had a message for her. And she said, "Somebody will understand this." And my daughter did not understand the message, but she texted it to me, and I knew exactly what it meant.
wow,
And so my daughter said, "I believe now. I believe now." So, and
wow,
I hear stories like that happening everywhere. And I think people are getting, I don't know if disgruntled is the right word, but just tired of the chaos that's happening right now in the existing mental health system.
yeah.
And they're not getting the help they need. They're getting turned away, and the suicide rates are so high right now. And so I think the world is looking for a change or an improvement or a solution.
Yeah.
And I think you and I and people like us are part of that solution.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that like people when they see that it's a common experience, more common than unusual, then they're able to, it's kind of sad. I mean, it's kind of sad that it's taken so many decades and centuries really for people to say, yeah, like this is normal for a human being to have a traumatic kind of response mechanism, and why should we look down upon anybody that is struggling with something like that? It does take a compassionate outlook. What other healing modalities have you come across that you find to be pretty helpful to people?
In my master's program, I learned how many hundreds of things are available out there. And I really believe it's trial and error. It has been for me. Um, and I was also diagnosed with MS in
Mm,
2018. So I have that, the physical manifestation of the symptoms. And I'm discovering that a lot of other people in the mental health diagnosis um, circle have autoimmune labels too. So that's been a really interesting, that's piquing my curiosity right now.
hmm,
Um, but what works really well for me is slowing down.
hmm,
Um, and I'm not promoting my books right now. I'm promoting a children's book for one of my friends who wrote, and that's going to be published next year. But in that process, we developed something called tuck in time, which is shutting down. Wouldn't it be great if people, because this helps me, if I shut down at the end of the day, wind down, turn off all my devices, and just spend time quietly interacting with the people I love. And I don't have little children to tuck in anymore, but that concept, that tuck in time concept. So we're going to be promoting that.
I love
Um,
that.
Sound therapy works very well for me. Music
Mm.
therapy, so different sound frequencies. I went to a sound bath and I discovered that
Mm.
because I was walking. It was my first sound bath, and I was walking out of it driving home, and I'm like, my hand is not numb right now. My leg is not is so sound therapy works very well. Meditation works very well. In nature immersion is one of my
Mm.
favorites. Um, Connecting with people like you, having these conversations, I always feel better and walk away with an open heart.
Mm.
And so opening up my heart, and for me personally, writing is my favorite
Mm.
thing. Journaling. If
Yeah.
um, if I get kind of frustrated with the world or with systems or with whatever is going on in my life, I pick up my journal, I take a drive into the woods, and I just write. And
Mm.
spilling it all out into words really, really helps me. But I have friends that do, they use herbs or they use cooking or um, different people have different forms of creative expression. So
Mm.
I tell people, whatever brings your heart the most joy, whatever makes time pass for you that you don't even notice it, where you get kind of lost in that realm of bliss.
Yeah.
That's what's for you, and that's what you want to look for. And I think the biggest thing is to believe it exists.
Yes. Yes. Amen.
Believe it exists.
Yes, absolutely. And that's one of the things that, the old paradigm discourages. It's part of how I think why many people can't heal so easily because they're locked into believing that it's not possible, that healing is impossible, that these things are going to be with you forever, that there is no recovery. I was told for decades that there is no cure for mental illness, and I just didn't understand that because I was like, there's cures for almost anything. Like, why not the thoughts in your head? Like, why can't you somehow figure it out as to what to get on a healing path? And I also appreciate the fact that you are putting out there that it is trial and error. People need to try these things, so it's such an empowering approach, and I thank you for that. Do you want to share any titles? I know that you have 7 8 books, you said,
Yeah,
and
but
yeah.
actually, I will share. If people are looking for hope,
Mm-hmm.
um, when I got out of the hospital and went back to work, they put me in an isolated office. They wouldn't let me go back to my team that I was on before, so I couldn't interact with the students. And they basically, my new supervisor said, I don't know you. I don't have any duties for you. So I heard a voice saying, it's time to tell your story. So I wrote my memoir. It
Nice.
has a chapter in it about how I am grateful for my bipolar disorder label
Mm.
because it helped me. So I think that would be helpful for people.
What's that title?
It's called Reconciliation of the Heart.
Beautiful. Now, can people still get it on Amazon
Yep,
or?
it's on Amazon.
Okay, so perhaps we could in this for this episode put a um link in it for the under the show notes. So if anybody's interested in learning more, and I'm sure if you get connected to that one, you could find other books as well.
Yes, or if you do a search on Amazon for Mary Clista Dahl, will all pop up.
Great, great. Any other types of things that you would like our audience to know that we haven't really touched upon? Is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Well, one of the things I'm really passionate about is helping young people, especially teens that have been labeled, because
Yes.
and you may have had this experience too. In our society now, there's such an epidemic of kids being put on the autistic spectrum.
Mm,
And so I have many parents now introducing me to their children saying, "Hi, this is John. He's on the autistic spectrum." And as if it's part of their name.
yeah.
And I get to know these children in another capacity.
Yeah.
And they are geniuses. They're so smart when
Mm,
you let them. And when you let them talk, they tell you they don't like to be known that way. They don't like their nicknames. And if you let them share their voice, they have so much to share about their dreams, about what they want to do. And with us having that knowledge that if you bypass that message that you're never going to amount to anything, if you have somebody that believes in you and you can believe in yourself, anything is possible. So I guess it would be one of the things, one of my missions is for our descendants never have to know that labeling process,
mm.
that it all goes away someday. We could just go back to being human again and loving our children and not having them labeled.
Oh my God, it's such a beautiful thing. I mean, when I tell you that I feel that label single-handedly destroyed a lot of my early adult life because I was just always at its mercy, or non-mercy, I should say. And I thank you for, have holding space for kids like that because it's so true. One of the epidemics I think that we see today too is that they're so, say, interested in TikTok and they're self-diagnosing, and it's a way to kind of find a community. But it's weird too because it's like they're finding a community so that they could all be pathologizing themselves. It's a
Yes,
strange, it's not really life affirming. It's more like life stripping. And,
yes.
so it's really good that you're doing that. And you've worked with young people before, right?
Yeah,
In your
yeah, I
career.
think that comes from it was 35 years when I was at the university. I was in the career guidance
Oh,
realm.
nice.
So I got to have the experience of a student walking into my office and saying, "I don't have anything to offer to an employer." And I would just smile and say, "Sit down and talk to me for 20 minutes. I will listen to your life story, not just your
Mm,
school story. And I will tell you everything you had to offer an employer." And it never failed for
mm,
35 years.
that's
And
great.
they would say things like, "Wow, wow." And they'd walk out of my office with a smile on their face and a full blown resume and, off to. And I used to tell them too, they'd be scared when they were ready to graduate and say, "I'm not ready for the real world."
Hmm.
And I would say there's no such thing.
Yeah.
It's the world is what you create. So
Yeah.
that is your real world. And I take that into the work that I do now.
That's terrific. It really lends itself, doesn't it? Because these kids now are needing to see that they have something to offer outside of those labels, which is so
Absolutely.
great. What are some things that people could do maybe to avoid, getting in a state of overload, like a practice?
I would say I'm a real big fan of narrative reframe.
Mm.
So when you're frustrated about something or going through an experience, rather than calling it a negative experience, call it a learning experience. Just keep, I mean, you always hear about the negative versus positive, and but that is absolutely positive if you mentally reframe it
Hmm.
to, and not in a way that other people say it, but in a way that works for you. um, I'm for example, with my MS, my right leg doesn't work very well, and I'm always stumbling. Um, but my the way I look at that is um, it slowed me down, and now I get to see what's going on around me. So just putting a better spin on every negative situation helps. One of my professors from my master's program used the words be a culture of one. And I really, really like that because there's what I consider to be adult peer pressure now. Everything, it's like that used to exist when I was younger. And my parents used to warn me about it. And now I feel like I'm living in it because if you don't do what everybody else is doing, my I'm 61 years old and my friends will look at me or I don't have a television and they think I'm crazy. And it's like TV doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So just there's a concept I call my y'all, make it your own life. So create your experience, just be self-aware of what brings you joy, what brings you
Wow.
peace, what brings you life, and then find a way to bring more of those things in.
That's just terrific.
I feel like you're doing that with your students as an art teacher,
Yeah.
that you understand that concept,
Yeah.
just letting people express themselves in their own way and discovery. It's wonderful.
It's a gift to be able to be part of that process with people. So, and I'm sure that you experience that as well because, people need guidance sometimes. I think more so than ever, like in this day and age, just because I love the idea of slowing down. We're going faster and faster and faster. And like, this idea of like, oh, let's incorporate AI so that we could be more productive. I'm like, okay, like that's going to bring about such happiness. Like, it's not like how fast can you go and how many things can you fill in your day that makes you happy. It's
Yeah, you're right.
right. It's the opposite. So, what can you take away and kind of how can you sit in the space and be one with yourself, your rhythm, your heart, and that takes a lot of shedding rather than speeding up. So, this is all really beautiful, I points of view, beautiful wisdom that you're offering my audience. I appreciate so much what you stand for, how you are moving forward in your mission, and what kinds of things you are offering to people in so many ways. And I give you a lot of kudos too to be doing a lot of this free of charge because it is a reality in the system that people start getting wrapped up in it continually. Sometimes they're revolving door patients because that's the only thing that their insurance will cover when it comes to mental health treatment. It is only what's ascribed right now as the biomedical model that is, you'll get your free meds under insurance, but you're not going to necessarily get your free talk therapy. So it's so good to come across someone like you. I am going to be looking for that memoir. I will have a link to it. Can you also share with our audience your website and your social media handle for any platforms that you're on so that they could find you?
Yes. Um, my You can find me on social media, on Facebook and on LinkedIn, just by doing a search for my name, Mary Clista, CLIS like in Sam, T like in Tom, A Dahl, DAHL. I'm getting mixed up with my platforms here. Just do a search for those on LinkedIn and Facebook. And my
Perfect.
website right now is 12 angels with the word 12.org.
Okay, perfect.
And people can also email me,
Oh,
which
great.
is Mary Clista Laughs, the word laughs, LAUGHS, at Gmail.
Perfect.
And I will respond to everybody that corresponds. You won't get an AI response from me.
Beautiful. We have a real person here, not a robot. We love the real people.
Me too.
Oh my gosh. Mary, this has just been such a wonderful conversation. I appreciate everything that you do and what you stand for. And good luck with attaining that land. I hope that it all works out.
I'm having fun in the process, and that's the point. Live for joy. Live for joy.
Absolutely. And listen, if you get that thing up and running, we're going to reconvene and get you updated and hear more about that transition. I hope it works out. I really do.
Okay, Jen, I really, really appreciate what you're doing. I feel like you're on my team, and we're doing this. We're crushing this.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Mary, for coming on board.
Thank you, Jen.
Thanks for listening to Not As Crazy As You Think, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And remember, mental health is attainable for anyone, especially those labeled with mental illness. Until next time, peace out.